Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome. We do have a public hearing scheduled for 6 o'clock, so I will declare the public hearing now open, and is to hear public comment on the proposed amendments to the rewrite of the zoning ordinance. I'm not sure rewrite is correct, but I guess it is kind of an upgrade or whatnot to the zoning ordinance. Language doesn't fundamentally change a lot, if anything, right? If you'd like to do that,
I will.
just for
keep it short.
those folks that are interested in what is happening. There has been a planning board has reviewed this. They have had public hearings, and they have approved it and passed it on to the board. So that's where we are now. The next step is for us to have this hearing, and then we will vote to approve or change or whatever the case may be. So go ahead, Lee J.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Lee J. Feldman, your interim contract planner. I'm not sure what the title would be.
Just take out the interim for now. Just say contract.
Yes, I mean, I think you're correct, and you can call it a rewrite. You can call it just cleaning it up. I like to consider it a little of both. So what we've done within the ordinance, the highlights of the big picture issues are that I've basically realigned the sections and moved them around because they didn't seem to flow very well, and so we took some sections and just plopped them in different areas within the document. We brought in the site plan review process, which was a standalone ordinance by itself, and proposing that now become part of the zoning ordinance. And the reason we did that was because we would take the conditional use process, which was a whole other review process besides site plan review and subdivision review, and just suggest that any conditional use requires site plan review. So then anything other than subdivisions would go through the same site plan review process. So you wouldn't have 3 different processes that would make it even more confusing. There would only be 2 processes, site plan review and subdivision. What else did we do? We added a formal staff review process within the site plan review ordinance, or section of the ordinance, so that it really codified what had been happening, where Public Works, Fire Department, Code Enforcement, and the planner would meet and meet with the applicant to go over their application before it actually got to the planning board, so that if there are any staff issues or issues that they would see that are different than something the planning board would look at, they could be addressed up front. We added wording that would require developers to pay for professional consultation or staff, my outside staff review after 5 hours of time, so that it would not be the burden of the town to have to pay for that outside person's review. We modified and cleaned up the definition section a great deal. There were a number of definitions that were in there that didn't need to be there, had absolutely nothing to do with the zoning ordinance or anything in the zoning ordinance. And then we added new definitions and modified some of them to have them make more sense with what we were trying to accomplish within the confines of the ordinance. And we also cleaned up a lot of the citations for state law, which were outdated, and were citing sections of state law that no longer existed. So that's really the crux of what we tried to accomplish within this portion of the rewrite. We have not done anything with any of the zones or zoning at this point, other than, I will caveat that, other than look at uses that really didn't make sense being in there. And it's not that we didn't want certain uses in certain zones, but when you're talking about the cultivation of wild blueberries, why is that even a use in the zoning ordinance? So we discussed those, and we eliminated a number of uses like that that really didn't need to be going to the planning board or have a use category if you're cultivating wild blueberries out in the middle of a field somewhere. So we hopefully cleaned that up in a way that everybody felt very comfortable with as well as we went through that process. That's about it in a nutshell. Those are the major things that were changed. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you or anybody else that may have any questions. So thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Any comments from the board? No, Ted, you were on part of this before you got elected to selectman, and Tim has been the liaison to the planning board, so you guys are fairly well versed in this stuff, and we've had the package now for, I don't know, a couple, 3, 4 weeks and whatnot, and Chris Wayne, being a long-time member of the planning board, is certainly more familiar with some of the stuff that was in there. But any comments?
I just think that the planning board and Lee J did a very good job cleaning this up. I think would be the best way to put it, because there was a lot of stuff in there that was irrelevant and also outdated. So I think we're where we should be today, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the things we just didn't want to do was really rock the boat or make significant changes that would become very controversial. But we did need to make a lot of these changes to just bring everything up to 2010 or 15 type of standards.
So one of the things of note, and I think we discussed this at our last meeting, is that the rewrite also brings in a quote-unquote fee schedule that has all of the fees associated with permitting and whatnot that is quote-unquote outside of the zoning ordinance itself.
Well, actually, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think Glenn has that moving through the planning board process now, and that is actually something separate from the zoning ordinance update.
Okay, so if we approve this tonight,
Yes.
the existing fees and schedules and whatnot are going to be
Changed in a separate process.
but they can't be changed until we approve them.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It's a two-part process.
That's correct. Yes, in fact, Glenn was just in front of the planning board the other night, seeking their input on those changes, and I think that either will be. Yes. So that'll be coming forward.
I guess that's my next. I'd like to do this all in
Understood.
5 minutes. Okay?
Sure.
A vote for the zoning package, and then a vote for although we're not at that point yet, but a vote for the fees, because I think if we're going to do this,
Yep.
it all should be done in concert with one another. Okay, so, but it will. I guess my point is, if we approve this tonight and
Yes.
don't do anything else, there are no fee schedules.
I'm not sure about that. I think the fee schedule that's in place now is still in
It would
place.
still be in there.
It would still
And
be,
it-
Yes.
and
even
it
though
would-
it's not part of the ordinance.
Right,
Yes.
because the fee schedules had been changed without changing the ordinances. We've updated the fees. The question I've got with your new fees, have you got document enough, if it goes to court on the fees, you can't overcharge or can't be in the money-making business
Right.
on these fees. So
Correct.
you've got to have document that it's going to cost the town $300 or $1,000 or whatever to have the code enforcement secretary, planning board, the planner, what are those fees and the hours involved here. Yes, you might make $100 on an applicant, but the next one's going to cost you $200.
Right.
So one offsets the other, but you're going to take 10 sets of subdivision plans, and you can't have $1,000 more than what it's actually cost the town.
So I'm gonna let, I guess I'll let Glenn speak to most of that because he's the one who has been updating the fees.
Okay, that's, let me just, okay, we've got that later in the
Yep.
agenda.
Yep.
So let's deal with just the, the zoning ordinance as it's been proposed, so.
Sure, and let me just address that again
Yep.
for you. The one issue that we did add in was language so that if I'm ever needed in the future, if you choose to hire a full-time planner and you need me to come in on a special occasion or some project, my fees would be paid by the developer. So there would be a direct hourly rate billed to the developer for my time. So that would be a direct correlation of the
Right.
time spent
Yeah.
on a project. And that wording has been added to the ordinance so that that can be accomplished.
So any other questions, comments from anyone relative to the zoning package? Glenn?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, I keep thinking about the fees that will stay in the ordinance if you folks adopt the ordinance tonight. I think your terminology should be to extract those fees wherever they're scattered in the ordinance as you adopt the new ordinance. Because if you adopt the ordinance as it is tonight presented by the planning board, those fees will be incorporated in that ordinance. And the only way to pull them out would be to amend the ordinance once again.
I thought they weren't in
I
there.
thought they weren't in there.
I don't believe they are in the new ordinance.
What's still in there as far as you remember?
I don't know if they were ever extracted, to tell you the truth. I don't recall them being extracted, but I might be wrong.
Was my understanding they extracted those,
Well,
because
that's
the
what-
purpose,
that was
the
the
purpose of
discussion
it
that-
was that if we had to revise the fees,
Yeah.
we didn't want to have to revise the whole ordinance. We just want to deal with the fee schedule,
Yep.
and we could just, amend that as needed.
If that indeed is the case, then there's no issue.
Right.
I believe that's what we did, and that was probably 6, 8, maybe even 10 years ago.
I don't see anything under site plan review for fees still remaining. Because one place it would be there.
Yep.
Can we word it so that we approve this
Without fee.
pending approval of a separate fee schedule?
So the real boss has spoken,
Which is Tammy.
which is Tammy. I asked Tammy because I would have needed to go back and look at the new ordinance.
Yeah.
The fee structure was extracted already
Okay.
from the proposed ordinance, so it's not in
So,
there.
so the new ordinance has no fees.
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
So it behooves us then to act on both tonight,
Right,
so
right.
that
Okay. Anything else concerning the ordinance changes? Okay, I will declare that the public hearing be closed. And the next item on the agenda is to discuss and vote to approve the zoning ordinance amendments as presented. So I'd entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the zoning ordinances amendments as presented. Any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries forward. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Let's move on to the rest of the agenda, but I do, Gary has suggested maybe we pull item 10, old business, up here so that we deal with both Glenn on the fees and then Chuck on the tip. But let me get through some of this stuff and then we can pull it up in front of the reports and staff initiatives. So, any announcements from the board? Do want to express our sympathies and whatnot with the Woodsome family. Lost a long time member of the Waterboro community and the municipal office community, Andrew Woodsome Jr., better known as Bimby, the last week. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Woodsome family and Gail in a tough time here. So we will be dedicating this year's town report to Bimmy. So we will see that. Look forward to that. Any other announcements from the board? Any additions or deletions? Yes, I would entertain a motion to move item 10, A and B, up under 7.
So moved.
It's been moved to bring item 10, A and B forward to after 7. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, so let me just go through. We don't have any appointments. Public comment. Correspondence, treasurer's reports, ecomaine recycling reports, and Senator Woodsome's newsletter is here for anyone that would like a copy of that. You can pull it off from the internet, off from the packet, the weekly packet, or contact Sherry, and she'll make sure that I get a copy of it. All right, item 10, old business, discussion to approve code enforcement and planning board fee schedule in a new building code. I guess it's 2 steps here. So, Glenn, you have gone over this with the planning board,
I did.
and did the planning board vote one way or the other?
No, they did not. It was more of a...
Shaking of the head?
Yeah, exactly. I told them they didn't have to take a vote. There wasn't any motion required. We're just after their opinion, and they gave me an opinion on actually just one phase of the fee structure, and I made that change on the list that you have in front of you tonight.
Okay, so the structure that we had last week, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, in our last meeting, other than the changes that we discussed that night going through it, is there anything else of note that we should take notice of?
The planning board opted to eliminate the application fee on site plan review. All the rest of the fees will stay the same. They also asked to eliminate the additional $50 charge per 1,000 square feet of development over 2,000 square feet. So if you go back to your legal spreadsheet that you initially had, we've eliminated the application fee, we've eliminated that additional $50 fee.
Okay.
Everything in between those two are going to stay the same.
Right, so the fee that you have, it's in the packet,
Yep.
is from you.
Correct.
Right? We would eliminate the $300 fee from site plan. I'm just looking at your...
Yep.
So the $300 would be for $2,000 and more?
The first $300 fee would be from 0 to 1,999 square feet.
Okay.
And then from 2,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet is $600.
So that would stand on its own. There's not an additional
That
application
is
fee
correct.
of $300. Okay.
Yep, that's correct. And that's where the
So
planning
it's
board...
only the fee based on size.
Absolutely. And I thought that was, like Tim said, that was a good sell and made sense to me, and it reduced the cost to the applicant.
Okay.
I added a line, let's see, let me find myself here. So the minimum building permit I didn't have on the original plan. Bear with me here while I find myself. Okay, yeah, I did. So the minimum fee for residential building went from 25 to 50, which is on the original sheet. So you already have that. What wasn't on here is the minimum commercial building permit. So that would, today that's the same as residential. Mm-hmm. I propose increasing that from $25 to $150 minimum application fee for commercial project.
In addition to site plan review, if needed?
If needed,
This is
correct.
just for the building permit.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I added a line for electrical inspections, only to say afterwards that Waterboro doesn't permit or inspect electrical. But I wanted that line in there because we'll be talking about that down the road.
Yeah.
Does it say it right on that sheet that?
It
We do
says it
not-
on the sheet that you have in your packet tonight.
Okay. All right, so that's the fee. The rest of your letter here seems to deal with the building code, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what is your pleasure from the board with the fee structure as presented
I've
here?
got a question for Glenn.
Yeah, Brian?
I'm a little confused on one item.
Okay.
It's listed under re-inspection, and it says $60, but then there's a note next to it that says doubled for second re-inspection.
So if they fail once, it's $60 to go back. If they fail again, it's double that.
That's exactly what that means.
Means if you don't put the handrailing up, God, in the second, after he's been there the first time, and you go back and inspect it the second time, and the handrailing is still not there.
Now, I'm confused when it says re-inspection, because I'm assuming that you have to have an inspection before you can re-inspect it.
Right. So
So
when I
the
initially,
inspection is $60?
No.
The inspection's zero as part of the fee.
right.
Oh, okay, so the
Yeah.
inspection's zero, okay,
Correct.
I get it
Yeah.
now.
The first one.
Right, the first one. So if it fails, and he has to go back out for that specific thing, it's an additional $60.
Right. And that happens more often than you think.
Okay, and then if you have to go out a third time, it's 120?
I didn't put a third time down there, but
Well, you had doubled.
You got double
Yeah.
for second
Second
inspection, so I'm
inspection, I would
having
assume it-
60 and
that's
60.
a fair,
I think it would go to
Yeah.
120 and then it
Yeah.
would go to 240.
yeah, that's fair.
That also covers if they don't show up.
Gary
to
says,
their
I'm hoping I'm out,
appointments.
That's right.
out of the office.
Yeah, it's just not if they don't satisfy the code, but if they're not ready, which happens a lot. You know, they set up a schedule for an appointment, I go out there to do an insulation inspection, and they're not ready, and I have to come back, that's re-inspection.
If they call Friday and want an inspection for Tuesday morning when he gets here, and they aren't ready, then he's already got out there.
Yep,
Nobody's called and said, don't come.
right,
And
and that takes,
that requires a second inspection
right.
Thursday or Friday.
and I still don't think the taxpayers should foot that bill, I think the builder should foot that bill.
Yeah, if they're not properly prepared, I would say that you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The citizen shouldn't have to
Yeah.
upfront that for us.
Just to make sure, since it seems like this 120 just happened and you didn't plan that on the words we have on here, I just want to make sure that these 5 folks up here and you are clear that if a certificate of occupancy or some inspection happens a second time because something wasn't done the first time, that would be a $60 fee. If something wasn't done.
That's
first-
correct.
Then if on that second time it
Yep.
wasn't done, you come back and it's 120.
That's correct,
That gives me a red flag. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm just.
Why?
Why?
yeah.
Could be excess. Could be excessive.
Someone asked me that the other day, and I said, yeah, $30 out here, $30 to go back, and then I have to make a return trip.
Yep.
So I've gone out there one time and they weren't ready. I have to make a second trip to redo it again.
Yeah, but from a cost perspective, it's no more expensive to go the second time than it was the first time, right? Or a third time.
That's true. There's a,
But the issue here is there's some level of penalty
that's exactly what,
for, fool me once, okay?
Yeah.
Fool me
Call it a
twice.
late fee.
yeah, or a late fee,
I
but
just want to make sure it's clear to everybody here, because
Yeah.
one of our phones is going to ring.
That's okay. Deal with it.
And that's okay, that's
Deal with
right.
it.
but understand, we've already been charging $50
Yeah.
for the same thing for 3
Okay.
years that I've been here.
But we haven't been charging 100 for the third time.
No,
Okay.
But it probably ought to be spelled out on this piece of paper that if a third or fourth inspection, then it's gonna double every time. I mean, it should be in black and white.
I can't
I don't-
imagine if a builder needs me out there 3
If
times,
he reads it, he's gonna smarten up, I would
he
hope.
better smarten up, yeah.
You may have one or two,
Yeah,
but
because I would lose my patience after
Yeah.
the second time.
I would hope.
All right, any other questions? If not, I'd like to at least get a motion on the floor here, and we can have further discussion. So,
I move we accept the fee table as presented by the code enforcement officer.
okay, do I have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Now, any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
You up or down?
I'm down.
4-1. 4-1, I didn't look down this way, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
everybody's
4-1.
up, yeah. All right,
Do I have the privilege of asking Mr. Woodson why he's down on this one?
It looks like it's a lot of money. Residential construction, on a $100,000 home, which is a very cheap home, that's, $500 to start without the plumbing permits or the septic, so you're talking $1,500 almost on
We've also dropped the growth permit by $200.
Yeah. but $1,500 is a lot of money to start a home before you can even hire David to go up with a backhoe and dig a foundation. It really is a lot of money. Trying to convince people to go the other way. I would
I mean, not
I
to-
would love to compare some of these other towns, because, I mean, that's,
We're low,
On
we're low on the totem pole when it comes to other town charges.
it's still a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's all relative, right? I mean, years ago, you'd get one inspection,
Yeah,
right? Today,
There's 14.
yeah, you're there all the time, right?
I am.
The beauty of this, as I see it, is we could come back
Right.
in a couple of meetings
Yeah.
and immediately just vote to change that.
Mhm.
All right, so it's passed. Next issue was the code. I don't see that we have a choice,
Well,
right?
I guess if I could just have the board acknowledge that they're aware that, the state has adopted the new IRC and IBC codes, and that Waterboro will follow.
But aren't we supposed to? Are the municipal officers supposed to adopt?
Well, I've gotten conflicting answers on that. One answer I've gotten, the ordinance shall state that we have adopted the state building codes. And MMA has said that, actually. And Natalie doesn't seem to feel that's the case, because the state has set forth that you shall.
You don't have a choice.
It's
You
not
don't
an
have a
option.
choice. But just to safeguard everything that's in play nowadays, I think just a general statement that the Waterboro will enforce the new state of Maine building codes.
I mean, if nothing else, we would have a motion that we acknowledge.
There we go, that's a good word.
We acknowledge the fact that we will be enforcing the latest,
Yep.
most recent revised.
Mandated by the state.
MUBEC,
MUBEC.
Maine Uniform Building Codes Code,
Mandated by the state.
mandated by the state.
So if you want to vote, we can do that. We can.
That would be good,
acknowledge
that would make me happy, I guess.
So somebody want to make
I'll make that a
motion?
motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further
What is
discussion?
the actual motion?
Huh?
What is the actual motion?
The board votes to acknowledge that we will be enforcing
MUBEC.
MUBEC,
Latest version.
latest version.
As mandated by the state.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let me just go back to your letter, because, you had some other requests from the planning
Well,
board, like
I
sprinkler
did,
systems
and
and
I don't know,
stuff.
I don't know
Isn't
if
that
this,
their job?
pardon me?
Isn't that their job?
Well,
Planning board approves a 5-lot subdivision. Can't they say, and you will have sprinkler systems?
and they do.
They can condition the applicant on
Yeah.
that, yes.
They,
So why would we,
They can condition the applicant on that. It's really a performance-based code that belongs with the building code or the life safety 101 code that the fire department has.
But if I'm in downtown
Some
South
way
Waterboro
attention.
and there's a hydrant
Yep.
in front of the building, in front of the access road,
Yep.
right? I'm gonna say, oh, we're gonna put fire suppression in every building?
Some of the buildings you might be required to under the building
Okay,
code. Yeah. Yeah.
So the new state of Maine code amended the requirement for single-family homes to have sprinkler systems again. But our subdivision ordinance gives us 5 requirements for the subdivision to comply to. And you don't have copies of that.
When you say amended, you did not have to have a residential sprinkler system. That's what you mean.
That's correct, in
I
single-family
would
homes.
think a sprinkler system and a wood stove just don't go together in the state of Maine.
But our ordinance gives,
Well, you wanna talk about driving the cost up of a house?
A house, yeah. I mean,
25 cents a square foot.
you take a wood stove that's smoking, it's gonna set that sprinkler system off, or if you get, my living room will be 92 to 96 degrees when I got the wood stove wide open at 10 below zero. And,
Like my father.
I can warm my house up, but that would set a sprinkler system off.
Yeah.
And
All right, but we didn't take any action relative to that, right? You're
No,
not asking us.
the issue with the planning board was that, the cisterns, which we have 12 throughout town, the fire department never knows if there's water in those cisterns until they hook a pumper up to it. If there's no water, then it's too late. So
Then-
the
then
fire
I would
department's
think-
using,
I would think that they have the ability to go around and inspect those.
well, they do, and that's a resource that they don't want to spend money on, and I'm just telling you what the fire
And then
department's
they
telling me.
run the risk.
And they're the ones that wanted these in.
Do they worry about a
Planning board.
They worry about a fire pond working?
They do worry about a fire pond.
Okay, so why wouldn't they worry about the cisterns working?
Well, and they do. They're just trying to shift the cost burden to the
Well,
developer.
that's a whole nother discussion.
It is. Okay.
It's well-documented discussion that's gone on for years.
Yeah, they've always wanted the applicant to bear.
I'll make a motion to table that to another time.
Fine, if somebody wants to second that, we will,
Second that.
okay, it's been moved to table the discussion until further notice.
Okay.
The sprinkler discussion?
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn.
All
Thank you,
those in
gentlemen.
favor? Opposed, there's no discussion on the table.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's talk about,
Tell you, I did-
yes.
Well, before I start too, I'd like to express my sympathy for your family loss. I'd like to say that. Last time I was here, we talked about TIFs, and we did TIF 101 about talking about a tax increment finance district and what it entailed, and probably had a pretty lengthy discussion of how they worked and how they could work in Waterboro. And essentially, I believe that Gary, myself, and the EDC were tasked at pulling together a TIF application, or at least a draft application, to bring back to the board to basically flesh out what could be a tax increment finance application to the state of Maine. And so, over the last few months, Gary's put in a lot of hard work, the EDC's put in a lot of hard work. We've done a lot of kind of looking and talking about inclusion and what not to include, and we've actually even hopped in a car and drove around to see about potential sites. So what came about and was pretty relatively recent within the last week or so is probably what you have is a draft, TIF draft of what we came up with. So what I thought I would do is to take you through again, I don't want to take up all of your time and go through it piece by piece, but I thought I'd give you sort of the highlights. I know it sounds like there might be a few items you'd like to discuss as well. And so I thought I'd just go through it. And again, any questions, more than welcome to stop me at any time. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to flip around the application and sort of help, I think it might help process-wise. So essentially, as you can imagine, it's an application to the state of Maine. So you have cover sheets and you have cover letters, which are the first few pages. But the one that really to look at, the first one to start getting into the meat of it, is starting on page 5, where you talk about statutory requirements and thresholds. This is where, if you remember from the discussion, there's a statutory limit of the entire TIF districts in a town or municipality can't exceed 5% of the total acreage. A single district can exceed 2. And so, and again, we'll get back into the parcels that were included shortly. But in terms of what you have here is essentially the initial target area that was identified was 381 acres, which comes out to 1.04% of Waterboro in the district that's within this application. So again, you're well under the 5, you're well under the 2%. The second piece is on page 6. That's when you get into the valuation. And again, the valuation can exceed 5%. And so within the district that we have identified, the taxable original assessed value right now is slightly over $21 million, which comes up to 3% of the total valuation. So again, both are under the thresholds. Also, again, they're cumulative thresholds, so it doesn't hamstring the town for future TIF districts if they want to do additional TIF districts. So those are really the things that the states are looking at, that the state looks at, that you don't exceed the limits. So I'm going to now jump back, and it's in, because this is probably the thing you want to talk about most, which is actually Exhibit B, which is the map. And so how we originally did this, and again, it was probably in consultation with Gary, with Lee J. We literally hopped in a car one day and drove up and down the major highways, the roads, to look at sites that we thought had potential development. Because again, you're identifying this as, the hope is that there's going to be development occurs within the next 30 years. So we looked at sites where we thought might have potential development, kind of really focusing on Routes 5 and the Route 4 202 corridor. And so that's how we came up with the parcels that you see. And so, as you can see, they're slightly a little different because there's a couple parcels down here. And again, we thought that there were plans, or there are plans for a development to occur, so we were going to capture some of that value for the TIF. And again, looking at some of these parcels, as the thought is over the next 30 years that those would see growth. One of the things that I should also say, again, this is a TIF draft. And so if parcels need to be added for this, we can easily do it. It's a mapping exercise. Essentially, we get the valuation, everything's on spreadsheets, so we can recalculate all of the numbers and all that fun sort of stuff. So again, we just wanted to have a basis to start the discussion in terms of if there are any other parcels to add or not add. And I know I've had a discussion with Gary, and there's been a suggestion or the possibility of maybe a few of the parcels going down Route 4/202. And again, that's easy to do if the board decides that they'd like to do that.
That, I think, probably came out of my mouth, but
Okay. Yep.
the day field, which has Heritage Metal and daycare, from there to Stroh Mill Brook Road is a major piece of property all the way down through there that is commercially for sale or could be developed, and
Sure.
we can take it out or we can put it in.
Yep.
I mean, if we put it in now, that's covering a lot of our commercial real estate that's on the market or could be on the market.
Yeah.
So,
The north side only?
yep.
Yeah, you got,
Because the other side has got the railroad bed and water and
Houses.
houses,
So
so.
if you look at what Dwayne is referring to, it's map 4, lot 30. 30A is the and the problem is that it goes fairly deep off from the road.
Sure.
It's kind of a funny,
Yeah,
so it's like 67 acres.
yeah.
But
Sure.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure that you would say that whole lot, because
Well, if you went in 500 feet and somebody wanted to add another 500 feet, if they had property that was all
Right.
flat and level and gravelly, which that is down through there, we can add the other 500 feet
Yep.
to 1,000 feet in deep.
sure.
If you had a major industrial park that,
Yep, sure. And I think, Dwayne, one of the early things that we were sort of driving around in the car and trying to conceptualize what 2% is and how big is 2%.
the
and-
Dayfield, it could have a possible another 4 businesses or 5 businesses down there, and
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
was a subdivision or a site plan
sure,
that was reviewed 15 years ago.
sure. Yeah,
And
Yeah.
with the possibility of more development, so.
Yeah.
And then this
Sure.
other land has been acquired by other people
sure.
since then for
Yeah.
that type of business,
Yeah.
so.
And when you're looking at it, again, sort of that district, in terms of acreage, is only slightly over 1%.
Yeah.
So it can still take a fair amount of acreage if we decided to put in parcels or all parcels.
If we took a 500 strip from 202 down through there, half of the property would be and half of it wasn't, but
Yeah, sure.
it
Yeah.
could be added
Yeah,
almost overnight. I mean,
Sure.
it's not a long-term
Yeah.
deal to
yeah.
reapply.
Yeah. The biggest challenge with splitting a parcel is, and it's done all the time, it certainly can be done, is when you're freezing that original assessed value, so much of it is based on a singular parcel. So the single parcel is worth $1.
Yeah.
You know, is half the parcel, you know, half $1. It's certainly easy, you know, not easy, it certainly can be done.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
are right that,
The
you know.
Jones property, I mean, that goes back out, and I almost think that that's still got right-of-ways out on the Strong Mill Brook Road.
Okay, sure.
But,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I may be wrong, I know it did at one time.
Yeah.
And,
The log yard.
Yeah. And the beauty on my end is that, you know, we can put in whatever you want. I mean, it's literally just sort of an exercise. And I think that was one of the things is get you a district right now, so then you can have comments and decide which ones you wanted to add or even delete. Because the other thing is, keep in mind, we do have, I know you're interested in purchasing a parcel of property, and we do have that in the district. And the question is, if it goes off the tax roll and is going to remain off the tax roll, you might as well take it off, because basically it's going to have a value now, and so you're going to create a sort of initial negative drag. If it's going to be purchased, parceled off, a portion kept for the town, and the remainder go back, then you'll take the little
Volume
blip
down.
because you'll know that it'll be generating taxable revenue or taxable valuation. So again, want to bring these up so that you can think about those and give us direction in terms of how you'd like us to proceed, because it's, you know, for my end, it's certainly a doable thing. It's just, and you do have communities and areas, excuse me, that'll have a main drag, and again, like you say, you know, we'll take a 500-foot strip and go 3 or 4 parcels, as opposed to taking the back acres, so to speak, which may not be
You may only
developable.
be able to
We can
take
do that.
one parcel and not 4
They're
different owners, you know.
They're literally, you can, and I worked on Kennebunk where they went up North Route 1 of the village and South Route 1, and they just went down and said, this one, you know, no, this one, you know, because it was either underutilized or they felt like there was going to be development. Because the sort of, to me, the overall arching piece of your TIF is, I think what you're saying is, in this district, is that based on the growth of Waterboro and the surrounding region, that there's going to be activity and there's going to be, probably commercial growth over the next 30 years. And so let's capture the value of that then. And again, we'll get into development program a little bit later. So again, I'm happy to do this. If it's a discussion that you want to have and continue with Gary and have Gary direct me, because Gary and I have had a discussion about potential lot sizes or lot sites to put in there as well.
Question.
So,
Yep. Go ahead.
When we started this, we were trying to do one blob so we wouldn't have to waste TIF area
Yep.
of road area connecting two pieces.
Yeah.
It seemed that your direction got from Augusta was that you didn't have to connect them with wasting the road area. Are
That's
we at risk if we have another section, which I think should be in a TIF district, are we at risk of having to have 202 road area connect these and quote unquote waste that road area as part of the TIF?
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's the same argument that we're having here is that basically it's the centralized travel corridor. We've identified sites that we believe there's going to be activity. And so, again, based on discussions, if there are sites between the two poles, then I think we just put them in. I mean, the worst comes to worst. I mean, as you can imagine, the application will get submitted to the state, so they will obviously have questions and comments and all that good sort of stuff. They could come in and go, I just can't conceive of it, and you might have to do that. But I think the issue now is don't put it in, and like you say, don't sort of waste that space now. Kind of have that, in the back of your pocket in case they come
If
back.
you look at 30A and 30 is how and how, but 30A is both sides of there and the other side of the now dance studio. And 31 is the day field.
Yeah.
But the pole line cuts the back of those lots off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from, even the tax map shows that there's wetland, which probably isn't much more than 400 or 500 feet off from Route 202.
You pop the wetlands map on the day field and the whole field is
Yeah.
wet soils.
But anyway.
Just don't have a basement.
So maybe we should at
That
least look at
parcel's
what
bigger
that,
than just the day field though.
we'll know in a month whether Malone needs to come off, right? Because if the town procures that,
Depends what you want to do with it. I mean, if the intention is to sell it once the water's in there, which I'd be in favor of, getting it back in the tax rolls, and we use a little piece of it in the water
but you
district.
can then put it back on, right? You can put on whatever you're not using back in.
Yep.
But
Might take a
for
few
the start
years.
of it, why wouldn't you yank it out?
What's our deadline for the spring submission here?
We don't have a deadline.
Okay.
Because basically what we're going to do is it'll be submitted post-April 1st. So essentially what you do is you use the prior year's valuation. So the valuation is going to be March 31st. And so we don't have a deadline. We can, and you can take your time and get it done as you want to get it done.
So-
And actually, sorry, Gary, didn't mean to. I would actually suggest probably not doing it till April, May, just because they're going to be doing a lot of work right now because everyone's throwing TIFs in to get them done. So they're usually very busy, particularly till, early May. So
does the board not want Chuck and I, and maybe some Lee J, I'm not sure, to come back and figure a 500-foot strip from the Dayfield Brook there down to Straw Mill Brook Road? Encompassing an entire parcel where we can.
Yeah, I wouldn't, there's some of those parcels that are already consumed out of there,
Right. Eliminate the obvious.
okay? And even part of the Dayfield is consumed, right? He's got two buildings there. And yeah, you could probably run deeper.
Well, I think that include, what he owns is on the left-hand side going down. He's got quite a bunch of woodland there.
Yeah,
I mean, there's,
well,
I wouldn't dare guess what there is for acres, but
there's
it's,
a peak of land that comes within 40 or 50, well, maybe 200 feet. It juts down into there. But anyway, I would say let's take a look at what that does to us from an acreage perspective.
the other thing, I mean, 2 or 3 phone calls would make a big difference to whether these landowners even want it in the TIF.
Yeah.
And if they don't want it in the TIF, then there's no need to go any farther.
Well,
With the exception, Dwayne, if the town wants to capture
Right.
those revenues and
Yeah.
use it in your development program, the type of thing.
Yeah.
they may not want a credit enhancement agreement to enhance somebody, and that's no surprise for Waterboro.
Are you, would you be upset if we included your properties in a TIF zone so that,
Sure.
for future development?
Yep.
I guess would be the question to the
Sure.
landowners that are
Yep.
involved.
Yeah. And in theory, it could, if it's a commercial development, it could make it a little more valuable parcel of
Yeah.
property for them because, as Gary alluded to, there's that credit enhancement. So if it's in the TIF district, then I'm interested in putting up a solar farm, and I know it's in a TIF district, and it's a big parcel of property, and I know I can come to the selectmen and maybe negotiate a credit enhancement where I get 25% of my taxes back. If it's on the market, it could be a benefit.
How property, I don't know what's left there. 'Cause
Well,
it was-
they're only 8 or 9 acres.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, they could
Yeah.
double their building if they,
And that's the classic, also TIF model of if they decide to double their
Yeah.
building, they get a contract and they need to hire. And again, it also allows, again, the town to either capture 100% of that or to participate with them and to do a credit enhancement to say, yeah, you're going to put up 20,000 square feet. We know it's expensive and, have some machinery and equipment, so we'll work with you on this. One of the things, and again, sort of, you probably have read it, is that we did put into the development program, and I am skipping around a little bit, but I'll do, is to allow for the selectmen to negotiate. We've basically done the TIF as if there's no credit enhancements, that it's all 100% capture for the town, but it does have the caveat that the selectmen can negotiate to do that, and actually does give that charge to the selectmen should they decide to do that in the future. So, yeah, and again, happy to work with Gary. I'm happy to whatever. This is the beauty part of this part of the program for me is I just simply say whatever you want. I'm happy to put it in because again, it's a mapping exercise and it's an Excel spreadsheet exercise to do that. Yep.
I'm just a little dense on this, I guess.
Yep.
But how does the town make money by having a TIF district?
Very good segue, Gordon. Thank you. You're wonderful. So basically, when you look at the map and you say, okay, this is your TIF district. Let's just say this is your TIF district. So we've identified the boundaries, and essentially as a $21 million valuation on the books right now. So how that relates to dollars and the development program is, and these are the next two, we're not going to go over them in specific detail of tables, but what it does is, so you're freezing that valuation at $21 million. And so every increment over that, the increased assessed value, the increased revenues, the increased taxes from that TIF district goes into a TIF fund. And so if it currently is creating $1 and the value goes up and it's basically creating $2, then the dollar still goes as if it always did in the general fund, but the dollar goes into your TIF account. your TIF fund. And those is how you generate revenues to use in your development program. So one of the things that it asks you to do is to do a 30-year just valuation increase or an estimated value increase. So to be able to generate what you think it's going to generate in revenues. So what we did is we tried to pretty much take a conservative, and again, worked with the EDC for a couple meetings about trying to figure out, sort of what numbers to guesstimate what would be increases, and tried to really look at, okay, it's probably not going to go up, so it might only go up 0.5% for the first few years, and then it might go up to 1%, and it sort of might also increment up, and then it basically increment down. So essentially, what your TIF application says that, and if you really kind of read, is your base year is $21 million.
Let me interrupt you. This is the
Yeah.
page right after the map.
Oh, sorry,
in the
Gary.
packet. So
It's the
next page after the map.
It's the page you're not going to be able to read because the numbers are so small. So basically, we've frozen the value in this district at $21 million. And so what we are just guesstimating is at the end of year 30, the value is going to be $29 million. So basically, it's increased $8 million, approximately $8 million over 30 years. And again, we are, just because we don't know what a new mill rate is, we're just keeping the mill rate flat for that time, is that over 30 years it would generate $1.8 million based on that, going from 21 to 29, increase of $7 million. So there would be those TIF funds over 30 years, $1.8 million approximately, that would be in that TIF fund over that 30 year. All of your, particularly your projections, are really that word of a projection. Particularly in this, it's a district. You really don't know what the value is going to be after 30 years. We're just trying to make some kind of rough assumptions of what it might occur. Am I making sense, or am I?
And then we can take those $1.8 million that adds up in that and spend them. It's another segue for you on pages
Correct,
9 through 11.
Yes, and I'm going to do one other thing before I segue onto that, but I will segue back to that. So the other second piece here, these other two number things, and this is the tax shift. So what you also have to do in a tax increment financing is you basically, because again, we're freezing a value. Your county tax is based on valuation. So that valuation that's frozen, the county tax is not going to go up. Your revenue sharing and your education revenue sharing are based on valuation as well. So increases in the valuation mean those drop, but we're freezing that value. And so what we did is I obtained, basically it's a tax shift calculator. It's basically a pretty sophisticated Excel spreadsheet where you put in the numbers and it says, okay, if that $8 million of valuation comes along, what's the total tax shift over the year, over 30 years? And so, again, it's basically, and again, you have numbers, you can definitely read them, but it's a little over, it's almost $8 million that basically is if you didn't TIF it, then, and you saw that valuation, then the town is going to lose those $8 million.
By reduced revenues, mostly in it from education.
Mostly in education.
That first column.
Correct. That's obviously, as you know, that's the biggie.
Yep.
So again, and I'll do Sari's segue is, so one of the things you have to do is you have to say, here's roughly what we think there will be in revenues. And then you have to have a development program which says, okay, what are we going to spend those revenues on? And I think last time, and I didn't bring it with me, but last time I brought the list, and I think I distributed the list of eligible costs and ineligible costs. And so what we did in terms of looking with the EDC and looking with Gary is came up with a development program, a municipal investment program, which starts on page 9. and runs through 11. So essentially what these three things are saying, basically, we believe we're going to get $1.8 million. Here's the activities that we're going to fund with those $1.8 million, and just some absolute rough cost estimates. Bear in mind that these are just simply estimates. You are not locked into, this is not a budget, this is not an approved budget. So if it gets approved by the state and the selectmen in the future want to, second line says $100,000, if they want to spend $200,000 over the years, that's fine. The selectmen have that capability. What I will say in this is that one that we tried to do with development program is two different things. One is in terms of discussions about potential uses that we thought had been identified in discussions, things like looking at streets and sidewalks and roadway improvements and infrastructure. The other thing is that the language, as you will see, is a little specific, but it's also a little generic. So it does give you the flexibility in the future. So we're not saying, like for instance, some TIFs might say, we've got a 10-acre parcel, it needs a road, we're going to TIF it, and we're going to bond for the road, and we're going to pay off the road. And so there's your TIF, and that's what you're going to use the funds for. What, in essence, you're saying in your TIF is, we have a district, we believe it's going to go up, it's going to generate revenues. Here are some of the activities that we plan on or would like to use those TIF revenues for, but we don't specifically say it's going to be, Lamb Road, or Abbott Road, or any of that type of stuff. We left it with enough flexibility for the selectmen and Waterboro in the future to make some decisions about what they want to do. And again, I know we had talked, that basically, and it's sort of a relatively new, is that you can pay for costs that are associated with recreational trails. And so we've allowed that as a use, but we definitely didn't say what trail, what use, what activity. So
The important thing is that the selectmen need to be satisfied that everything that they'd like to spend this money on over the next 30 years is in this list.
if there is something on here that, or something you would like to spend money on and you don't see it here, then we can add it as long as it's eligible. Like for instance, I think as we talked about, you can't use TIF funds for a municipal building for a town hall. So, so as long as it's eligible, it can go in there. So that's also another thing to read this list is, do you foresee any type of spending activity that's not covered in here?
But it has to be in here in order for us to do it.
With the exception of, correct, with the exception of if it's not here and you want to do it, you can amend it in the future. So if for some reason, and again, this is, you're talking infrastructure. Who knows what technology infrastructure is going to be 15 years from now. So if it's something that's not here, you can amend your development program.
So there's some work that's got to be done. Right? We're going to take a look at some of those other lots.
Yep.
We'll work on that map, and you folks will work on pages 9 to 11 and see if you have any red flags there, whether it's missing or some things you want to come out.
Well, I think they're generic, and well, I don't think we want to take anything out. Just because it's in there doesn't mean you're going to do it.
So, correct. Correct.
So if there's any glaring things missing, I think we'd want to add those in.
Yep. Or even something where you see something that's relatively generic, but there's something you want to add to it.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions of Chuck while we got him in? All right.
I thought you were going to ask me how hardly you could work with Lee J. How do I do it?
That's another
Or is that?
discussion. I don't know.
Is it you don't want that on
Meetings
the
on
record?
TV.
You don't want that on the record.
We're limited on time.
I'm just not saying anything.
All right.
You have a briefcase full of Xanax or something?
No, but cigars.
All right. Let's run.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Lee J, as well for being here.
Thank
the first part, the public hearing, that there was no public at. Okay, let's move on to, we went back to 8, reports and staff initiatives. Selectmen's report, explain anything?
Just many thank yous to everybody around town and town office, fire department and all of that for the help that they gave the Woodsome family last week.
Okay.
Greatly appreciate it.
Tim, anything?
I'm all set, thanks.
Ted?
Also,
Gordon?
All set, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, let's move on to Gary.
All right, budget update. A supposedly final budget committee meeting will be this Thursday, March 1st here at Town Hall. They have 2 issues left to make their recommendations on. They do not have any education numbers. They'll be able to make a final recommendation to you on the insurance line, which Julie and I have finished as of today, I guess you would say. And then the other one here that's still remaining is Old Home Days. And April and I have been playing telephone tag, and I still need some more detail because they're asking for considerably more money. In terms of an election update, I just want to let you know from Christine, nomination papers for local offices will be available March 15th. They would have to be returned 45 days later on April 30th. We have 1 3-year selectman term vacancy, a 2-year school board vacancy, and a 3-year school board vacancy, and 1 3-year water district vacancy. As many people know, there's a special election scheduled for March 27th on the purchase of the Malone property. Both the selectmen and myself have recommended that we pursue this property. It's out behind JD's Package Store and uphill of that. And one of the main reasons that there was so much interest in doing that is because for fire suppression, we need a new water tank. We only have one in town, and that needs to be have some maintenance that it's never had. So this property has an excellent site up on the hill for a water tank that could be done cheaper than a steel tank. The price came down significantly when the selectmen looked at this a couple years ago, maybe more. It was at $375 or $400, I think, and this was at $275. And obviously, once public water goes in there, and the water district does intend to do this, the property would be more valuable, and we could sell it off as individual parcels or an entire parcel, whatever the voters as well as the selectmen would want to do. I want it to be known that the water district and their customers will be paying for all labor and materials associated with the actual tank construction and the water line down to Route 5. And there's going to need to be some discussions and some negotiations between the water district and the selectmen for who will pay for the road construction, how much would be contributed by each side, and where the actual water line would be located, etc. On Facebook and email and even a few walk-ins, voters are asking about return on investment. Why are the taxpayers doing this and not the water district? That's a perfectly logical question. I think everybody realized that we're probably a little more nimble in being able to get money than the water district. They would have to go out and borrow it, and it would take them a lot longer. We have a healthy fund balance, and we have the ability to ask the voters to purchase this sooner. And we would hopefully have some more information about these financial details before the election on March 27th. So that's why I'm suggesting a week from tonight we have a workshop that is both water district and budget workshop related. And there are more Malone fact sheets on the table here that are available in my office. Since absentee ballot voting has started, we don't have them out as much on the front counter, but this is an information sheet. This is not an advocacy sheet. So the town clerk has said we can have these sheets out. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay. Questions or comments? All right.
Just a comment that in the Smart Shopper this week, I did run a small ad by myself as a selectman, and if anybody out there has got any questions of my comments in the newspaper, then give me a call.
Okay.
I probably can answer anything that they got for questions.
schedule as soon as the election, that's still gonna happen.
Probably not. I think we tentatively discussed moving that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to adjust our meeting schedule next month anyway, because we're scheduled to meet the 27th, and this room is going to be used for voting that day, so we probably will either run it on the 20th or we're scheduled for the 12th and the 13th and the 27th, so we'll have to shuffle that around. I guess we'll have that, we probably ought to have that discussion tonight. So do we want to move the 27th meeting to the 20th? Just have back-to-back weeks. Everybody okay with that? So the
I don't
meetings next month will be the 13th and the 20th?
If we haven't got anything on the, big on the agenda on the 27th, we can meet right out here in the lunchroom.
Yeah, we can do that.
We haven't even started the 27th agenda yet, I don't think.
So, I mean, there is not a lot other than taking care of small
So
business.
tentatively, why don't we just say we're gonna have it on the 20th?
If it's our intent to air it, I think the option of the fire station, that's set up for
Yeah, so you could-
camera, so that's an option.
We, I think if we just do it the week earlier, we'll just have to play that by ear.
Yeah, 'cause this room will be full of voting booths.
Okay? Where are we? New business, initial discussions regarding the budget. You wanna go through any of this or all of it, or what's your pleasure?
It's up to you. You have a memo, you have the updated budget figures that show things after last week's budget committee meeting. So most of column D as in David under budget committee is filled out for you to look through. And I've got you my usual budget memo that talks about the pluses and minuses from page 1 to page 22. And you can take that home and digest it, or we can go right through it tonight, whichever you wish.
Well, my suggestion is we come back in next Tuesday night
Okay?
with a workshop, if that's okay with everybody, or amenable to everybody, and we'll just kind of start going down through this, and
I'd rather do that myself, just
Yep.
look at it and then come back and
at the same time, we can have some discussion relative to the property issue, because we're gonna have to have a public hearing, which we've now got scheduled for
March 13th.
March 13th. Let me get my,
For Malone.
cheat sheet out here from Sherry. So, yeah, we'll get to this in a minute, but we've got 2 public hearings scheduled for the 13th. One, which will be the regarding the special election, and the other one is to relative to Lake Arrowhead community wanting to take their Beano license public. And we've got an interview that night, but other than that, nothing scheduled. So why don't we do Tuesday night the 6th, right?
Yes.
And we'll start at 5:30. We'll go through a couple of hours and see what we can get done, and
What do you want to start with, Mr. Chairman? You want to start with budget or Malone?
let's take the first part of it and do the Malone thing, and then just, because I don't think that'll take very long. I think we've got identified most everything that we need to. It's just a matter of maybe formatting it.
This is on what day? This is the
Tuesday, next week.
which is going to be the
6th
6th.
60.
at 5:30.
6th at 5:30.
3/6.
So Sherry can put out the notice that we will be meeting and workshop that night.
I don't have any other information on school costs in terms of when we would get those. I think it'd probably be deep into April and maybe into May.
So they've had the first meeting with the selectmen. I can't get to those in the afternoon, but
Yeah, we had one here.
we had one here.
There's a meeting tomorrow night, I think, the school board and a budget session.
I think the biggest, from what I'm hearing for rumors, is whether they may close 1 or 2 schools, grammar schools, in order to meet a budget. And
Well, they've been talking about closing Shapley for
Yeah.
forever, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other discussions on the budget? Yeah.
Let me know if you have questions.
Okay, we're gonna jump to 12, because we've already got, I'm sorry, 11, because we've already got 10 done. So I need to discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the February 13th meeting.
So moved.
I have to back out because I wasn't
Okay.
here then.
I'll second that.
So seconded, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
401.
104, abstention. And then last week's meeting, which was the 20th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. All right. Jump back to item 12, pending decisions. That's the ongoing thing. Discussion of agenda items from 2 weeks from tonight. I think we're all, well, we've got 2 public hearings, and then we'll move. Well, we got some accept a resignation, and then we get to appoint somebody. So, but other than that, it's going to be fairly straightforward, typical stuff. We'll see, items needing signature, minutes of the 13th and the 20th. And with that, Dave's going to run the credits here afterwards, pending reminders. And with that, I would accept
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
So moved, seconded.
Seconded by Selectman Littlefield, seconded by Selectman Woodsome. All those in favor? Opposed?